Greetings everyone on this beautiful mid-April morning in northwest Indiana. In this video I'm going to be taking a hike in and around the Indiana Dunes National Park. I'm going to be scouting for invasive species. Spring is one of the best times of the year to spot invasive plants growing in your area. Many invasive species gain an advantage by leafing out earlier than native plants. Now, not every plant that leaves out early is an invasive, but many of them are, and that makes spring a great time to identify them. Well, and here we go. In my opinion, this is the worst invasive in this area. This is bush honeysuckle, which is a short way of basically saying there's about 5 species of Lonicera that are invasive around here. I don't know which one this is specifically, but it's one of them. Well, so as we can see, it's leafing out early. The leaves haven't really come in enough to maybe use those as an identifier, but I'm pretty familiar with this plant. The main thing is the opposite branching. And then the other main thing to distinguish bush honeysuckles from the natives, which by the way, I've never even seen a native. That's how prominent the invasive ones are. But the way to tell the difference is the bush honeysuckles, the invasive one, they all have a hollow pith. Yeah, so what the heck, I'm gonna show you this hollow pith. Well, there you have it. Good way to tell bush honeysuckles. Well, and here we go with another really bad invasive. This one is multiflora rose. Again, we can see it's leafing out early. So this is probably not the best time of year to identify this plant, and that's because it's distinguished from other rose bushes by its frilly stipules, which I can't show you right now, and also just the multiple occurrences of the flowers and the rose hips, and the fact that the rose hips are a lot smaller than what you'd see on native roses. But I've come to know this plant pretty well, and I am quite certain that this one is multiflora rose. But one giveaway I can point out at this time of year, it does have these recurved spines. Again, that alone doesn't make it a multiflora rose, but that's a good indicator. Contrasting the recurved spines of multiflora rose, here is a Smilax, a greenbrier. And you can see their spines are perfectly straight. Smilax aren't exactly a fan favorite due to their sharp thorns, but they are a native. They can be kind of a nuisance without the fire regime coming through, but they are native, and when they leaf out, the fresh leaves are absolutely delicious. Well, right now I'm in an area of the national park that has not been taken care of. There are 3 invasive species right here in view. So let's just start off with this one here. This is Berberis thunbergii, also known as the Japanese barberry. This plant doesn't get very tall, maybe only 3 or 4 feet, but it does spread out pretty wide. So there are 3 species of Berberis that occur, and the distinguishing characteristics of Japanese barberry is it has smooth leaf margins, and that differs from the other 2 Berberis species. Also notice these thorns. They come out individually. They're not born in bundles of 3, which distinguishes it from gooseberry, which is a good native plant. And here's an old fruit from last season. Show you what that looks like. Growing not far from the Japanese barberry is another invasive, but people don't like hearing about this one. This one is Vinca minor, also known as periwinkle, also sometimes referred to as a myrtle, although there's a lot of plants that are called myrtle. But this one is a very popular ground cover plant in gardens, and that's why people don't really like hearing that's an invasive. Got to try to remember to not be, kind of a bully with your knowledge. There's a lot of people out there that care about the environment, but maybe not so much to get into the minutia of specific plants and species. And oftentimes those people are going to have their gardens that they've planted, and they're going to be proud of their gardens. So, you know, don't come in there and say, hey, that plant's invasive, you should get rid of it. Maybe come in with a little bit more tact and point out that, you know, while the ground cover they're using is very effective, there are native species that can be used as ground cover instead. One example of which is western wild ginger, which I'll be sure to film if I see any of it out here. It's pretty common. This time of year, Vinca minor is flowering. It has these purple flowers. Pretty attractive. Now, is this plant the worst invasive? Probably not, but it is invasive, and if you can use a native ground cover such as western wild ginger instead, that's better for the environment. And then the third invasive species in this little area is Euonymus alatus, better known as burning bush. This plant is a very popular ornamental. It produces some brilliantly colored leaves right around in November. Provides a real nice color in the landscape, but unfortunately it's escaped cultivation, and in the Indiana dunes in particular it is a real big problem. Key features to note, again, opposite branching, which puts it in the minority of plants. Most plants have alternate branching, and then you'll notice the stems are winged. They have these wing features on them. While the brilliant fall color of this plant is certainly attractive, I understand why people like it. But consider maple species as a replacement. It produces very much the same color. There's plenty of natives, red maple, sugar maple, that do it. And I'm sure they've cultivated plants to, you know, have pygmy forms or to fit similar to like the form of a bush. So best to replace burning bush with maple if you want to keep that color. Again, real easy to spot the invasive honeysuckles because they're the only plant leafing out right here. Native plants and animals have evolved together over thousands of years, and therefore they work well in their communities together. They keep each other balanced. A diverse ecological community is more resilient to shocks. A helpful analogy is financial diversification. Just like a well-diversified retirement portfolio with stocks, bonds, real estate, that can better withstand economic disruptions. A diverse ecosystem is more likely to survive environmental challenges. If you lose one species to disease or disturbance, then others can step in to fill its role. One example of this is the American chestnut. Losing the American chestnut was kind of a disaster for the local ecosystems. It was a very important food source, but because it was a biodiverse system, the oak trees and to a lesser extent the hickory trees kind of took over in that role of being a food source. So biodiversity is important, and that's why we care about keeping our invasive species in check. Now, most invasives are probably here to stay, and it's going to be up to our native species to evolve to live with them. The problem is that this could take hundreds or thousands of years or more. This is why we want to help our natives by doing everything we can by removing invasives and preventing their spread. Give the natives a chance to catch up, in other words. We want to try and give them a better chance to adapt and thrive. Yep, the only thing leafing out in this section is multiflora rose. And here once again, one of the few plants leafing out, Japanese barberry. Well, it's just getting started, but I already know what this one is. This is Alliaria petiolata, also known as garlic mustard. This is a biennial herbaceous plant. This plant's in the same family as a lot of our healthy vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and its leaves are edible. I find them pretty tasty. If you're a forager, consider picking a whole bunch of these and making salads out of them. It's pretty good. You want to make sure and get the entire root out of the ground and then throw it somewhere where it can't grow. Like right there on the cement. know people don't want to hear it, but I'm telling you, this periwinkle's bad. It just takes off. It's covering this whole hillside right here. Preserving biodiversity isn't just about protecting nature, it's also about protecting ourselves. Ecosystems with low biodiversity are more prone to disease outbreaks and pest infestations, which can threaten food security. On top of that, most of our medicines are derived from plants and fungi, so maintaining a wide variety of species is critical for future discovery and innovation. And here we have one more invasive species just starting to leaf out. This one is Elaeagnus umbellata, also known as the autumn olive. The most striking trait of this plant isn't really revealed at this time. The leaves have to mature a little bit more. Right now they're pretty glandular, they're pretty interesting on the undersides, but what'll happen is the undersides will turn this amazing silver color. Really quite an attractive look. Other traits to note would be that it has alternate branching, and then it's got these wimpy spines. They're not as imposing as hawthorns and plants like that, but you still got to watch out for them. Well, there you have it. Hope you got something out of this tour of invasive plants of Northwest Indiana. Again, here in spring, that's the time to look for them. They really stand out because they are some of the first plants that leaf out. So learn to recognize them and spread the word. The more people who understand which plants are harmful, the more we can do to help protect our native ecosystems.